Hi there, it's Anne of Rosie Duck Designs here. Thank you ever so much for joining me today. I'm going to feature in today's tutorial the Playing with Patterns Designer Series paper, which is a 6x6 pack. And as the name would imply, every design on it relates to some form of a pattern. I've got to be honest, I've had it a while, and whilst I've used it a couple of times, I know that I've not featured it on a tutorial, so I thought it was about time to put that right because it is a really lovely set of papers. So I'll just quickly share the different papers within the pack with you. So it's double-sided, so in effect you're getting 24 different patterns to play with. And what I love about this is that there are a really good selection of colours, and some of the sheets of paper are quite vibrant and others are quite muted, so it gives you a lot of choice when it comes to making cards. So it's going to work for a lot of different occasions. That one, for example, has got to be one of my favourites. I love the combination of those colours. If I don't think I've already said this, I've only just started and I'm losing track, but there you go. The colours are Calypso Coral, Coastal Cabana, Crushed Curry, Night of Navy, Purple Posy and Whisper White. One of the colours that I've just mentioned there, the Purple Posy, is one of our 2019 to 2021 in colours. Now sadly, shortly after they were launched last year, there was a problem with the ink, the Purple Posy ink, and Stampin'Up tried to rectify it, but unfortunately they couldn't, and it just didn't meet the standard that they require for their products. So it was withdrawn very quickly. So I kind of think we've lost sight of Purple Posy, and yet it's a really pretty colour, and you can still get it in the card, and you can still buy them or buy the colour within the stamping blends. So I think it's sad that we have kind of just forgotten about it. Well, I certainly have, and I think that's probably true. I'm probably not the only one to have done that. So I thought, why not today? I'll choose one of the papers that actually celebrates Purple Posy and share the pretty colour that it is. So that's what we're going to be using, and this is the particular piece of paper that I've decided to use, and I'm with these circles on. So let me just put these to one side for safety. So my base card, which is in Whisper White. Now, as I'm filming this, we literally had an announcement yesterday that the paper mill sadly, the paper mill that produces our Whisper White cardstock has had to shut down permanently due to the COVID-19 pandemic, which is obviously very sad news. Stampin'Up have quickly got to work, although it came, it wasn't an expected announcement. They've quickly got to work and they are producing a replacement card, and that's going to be called Basic White. So there'll be various bits of news about the changes and the new products coming in. So hop over to my blog. I'll put the link on the front, and if you want to subscribe to that, that will just keep you up to date with what is going on as far as the paper is concerned. So Whisper White, the days are numbered for that, but we have got a replacement card. So, you know, in all honesty, we're probably not going to notice very much difference. I just thought the fact that I'm using Whisper White now as my base, it was worth mentioning it. And there is a video which I will be sharing where the two cardstocks have actually been tested, and it's interesting to see that there's a slight variation in the whiteness of the cards, and it is crazy the way white has different shades, but that's kind of the major difference, and it's not that major, but it's interesting to see how the two cards perform, and they actually perform very much on the same level. So that's a bit of news about cardstock, but let's get back to crafting. My base card is my usual size of 6 by 8, scored at 4 on the long side to give me literally my base card. I always get to that point and think I should be saying something else, but that is it. It's my base card. So let me just burnish those edges. Make sure that's nice and crisp. The metric equivalent of that is 15 by 20, and that will be scored at 10 on the long side. And then I need 2 pieces of purple posy, and they are going to be cut at 3 3/4 by 5 3/4, and the metric equivalent of that is 9.5 by 14.5. And one of those is going to go on the front, and one of them is going to go in the middle. So let's just stick those down before we talk about what we're going to do with the piece of design series paper. So it's a lovely pastel colour, this purple posy. So lighter than our Highland Heather. I should have brought a piece of that in to compare the two, but very, very pretty. So I'm just centralising that, and then I want to do the same with this piece. I think I'm on my final snail, which is quite momentous for me, but I have stocked up now with our new replacement, which I still can't quite remember the name of, but I'm sure that will be making an appearance very soon in my tutorials. There we go. Now I'm actually going to be sticking something in here, a message that's actually that I've typed out. So I'm going to be sticking as I say, a separate piece of paper in there. But if you were going to use it as a card, so if you were going to put a piece of Whisper White in for your, your normal sentiments, again I should have cut this out, but you would want that to be at 3 1/4 by 5 1/4. No, forget that. Your second layer should be this one, which would be 3 1/2 by 5 1/2. So that would fit in there as your piece of basic Whisper White cardstock to put your written message on, and you can stamp on that as you would do normally in a card. So yeah, I hope that makes sense. So that's 9 centimeters by 14 centimeters. I am literally going to be sticking this piece of paper, which has actually got typing on the back there, but that is what I'm going to be sticking in there. But as I say, normally it would be your standard piece of Whisper White at 3 1/2 by 5 1/2, 9 centimeters by 14 centimeters. So we'll pretend that I've done that and move on to the front. And I've got my piece of Desire Series paper here. Now that I'm going to cut at, this is where this red one comes in, I'm going to cut this at 3 1/4 by 5 1/4, which is 8.3 by 13.5 in metric. Now obviously I could just come straight down and cut that those measurements, but it's kind of then going to cut into the circles, and I thought it was quite nice to have maybe the design showing all the circles, and sort of not just have a whole circle and half a circle and perhaps a little bit of a circle up there. So yes, I'm going to waste the paper slightly. So what I did, I finished up with a piece, as I say, that is 3 1/4 by 5 1/4. Just double check myself. I seem to be having a bit of a meltdown on measurements recently. when I play videos back and I notice I've got things wrong, I always put them in the notes at the start of the video. So always worth a look there in case I've had one of my my things that should be outtakes and I haven't sort of picked it up. So what I did basically was with my paper trimmer, I cut down here and I cut down here, and then I cut off the be that way around. So I've cut off at this end so that I've still got quite a bit of that circle and that circle showing, and a similar amount at this end. So these look quite similar. So effectively I've cut more than I needed to, and then I've trimmed it down using my paper trimmer to get to the point where I have got a piece of paper that looks like this. So it's not particularly scientific, but the idea was I wanted there to be a little white border and then just the solid circles, and then I've tried to cut the paper so that these are very similar in size. So I hope that makes a bit of sense. When you've got the leftover little bits of paper that you've cut off, because normally you would cut, if that was the size you were going for, you'd have all this left to play with on your paper. By doing what I've done, you've kind of got a bit over here and a bit over here. There's not an awful lot you can do with that, but you could always just trim that down and then add that to the inside of your card. Here they are. I thought I had bought them in. So my random bits of paper, so if we can just imagine for one random second that this is my white piece of paper that I'm going to put my message on, then you could always just trim your cut off bits down, just so that you could stick them on the bottom of your paper there, so you've got a nice little design on the area where you're going to put your message, which will then coordinate with what you've got on the front of the card. I'm kind of hoping that's making sense. So this is going to have a larger border, as I said earlier, I wanted to celebrate the purple posy a little bit, so I've cut it so that we're seeing more of the border around the front of the card. I might flip that the other way actually, because I've noticed I've gone a little bit off there, and I think that's going to draw much less attention to it as my inside of my card. So there we go. Slight change of plan, but that looks a lot better. Now I'm just going to do my best to centralise this on the front. It's another dull day, and it's there we go. If you're using liquid glue, that gives you that wiggle room to change, but to just adjust your paper if it needs to be done. But that's not going to work if you haven't noticed it when you've stuck it, but there you go. It's not the end of the world, it's a handcrafted project. So that is basically the finished card. All we need to do is to add a sentiment to that, and this is a thank you card. So I have used the Night of Navy, so this is like almost a stamped off version of Night of Navy. So that's what I've done on my piece of white cardstock, and then I've cut out another piece of purple posy card, and I've used my newfound favourite layer dies from the Hippo and Friends. These are the Hippo and Friends dies, and I've said this on a previous video, I think the box is where I actually featured the stamp set. If you never use the animals and you don't buy the stamp set, these dies are absolutely brilliant, and you've also got these two little elements here that cut a little sort of slit in your card that enables you to cut ribbon through. So, and then you've got a balloon, so you don't need the stamp set for that, and a balloon string. So if really hippos and sheep and unicorns are not really your thing, but you like a nice pretty die, then I've got to say that is a really nice set of dies to have. So I've used that one, and I've used that one to cut the larger piece of card out. Let me just stick that one onto the middle of here. I just feel like I'm getting lost in the gloom. It's getting darker and darker. We haven't had lunch yet, so it's we're not long on out now, are we, from the shortest day. About to say the longest day, the shortest day, the longest night. So things hopefully start to brighten up a little bit. Right, there we go. And I'm going to have this in the landscape version, but you could, if you wanted to, you could go that way. My typed out element that I'm going to stick in here is this way, in landscape, so my card needs to be landscaped. So let me just stick that on with some stamping dimensionals. So apart from my waffling, you can see this has been a very quick and easy little project to do, and obviously I'm using it as a thank you card. Any sentiment of your choice would work on there. Yeah, that's also what I meant to say. I've used the thank you. That thank you sentiment comes from this massive thanks stamp set, which I make an awful lot of thank you cards. So you know, this was a brilliant stamp set for me, I have to say. But that's where that particular sentiment has come from. So I'm just going to stick that in the middle. Yeah, we'll just go with the middle. And that is it done. And there's sadly nowhere really I could put Wink of Stella on that, which is a bit sad. I suppose I could add a little bit onto the thank you if I really wanted to, but perhaps I'll make an exception and I won't have Wink of Stella on this one. So the other alternative, I've obviously used dies, but you could potentially use a punch. So I've stamped out this Night of Navy onto the Purple Posy card, and I've got the Everyday Label punch. And we could just punch that out. Probably should have tried this before I stuck that on, shouldn't I really? But there we go. So if you imagine without that bit on it, that would work, or even that would work. I think actually possibly with the fact that we've only got we would only have one layer. Let's try this. Actually, they both work, don't they? Seeing it like that, I think I'd go with that possibly. There you go, just an idea. So you don't need to have a big shot. You works perfectly well with a punch. You could even just cut just a small amount of card out and then just stamp your sentiment on there and just put that on as well if you don't have a punch. The point of it all is, you know, you're making something for somebody and it's your design, you're using what you want to use, and that's what makes it so special. So you don't need masses and masses of tools to make a nice card for somebody. So I think that's it's quite brief for me, isn't it? I think that is it. Obviously you can you could even use, I've got the envelope here, you could even use some of these offcuts to to just brighten up your envelope, maybe on the back here. I haven't got the stamp set that goes with this, and I haven't particularly got anything that's got circles on it, so what I thought I would do is I would just use this little star stamp from the Hippo Happiness stamp set, just so that I've got a little bit of design on my my envelope. I've got to that point now that unless it's a business type letter, that envelopes have to have pretty patterns on them. I've got a bit of crushed curry here. Just check that on there. That's looking good. So we'll have a bit of crushed curry going up here. And just some along there. It just brightens our envelope up. If you are new to stamping and you heard me say I've stamped off the image and you have no idea what I'm talking about, you're not alone. Most people have no idea what I'm talking about, but you know, just in case, it's easy to take for granted when we say things that everybody knows what we're talking about. So initially I've got my thank you stamp, I've got it into my Night of Navy ink, and then I stamp it down, and that is my full inked stamped version. What I noticed with this particular paper was that this, although it's Night of Navy, it's kind of like almost a little bit wishy-washy. It's like a stamped off version of the full colour. So to achieve that, all you do is you stamp it once, obviously nowhere near your project, so if you've got a grid pad you could stamp it on there, or a piece of odd bit of card that you've got left over, and then on the actual piece of card that you want to use, then you stamp it down again, and that gives you your some people refer to it as a second generation stamp. I tend to call it a stamped off version, but that's how you get the difference between the ink colour. So I think that is about all I've got to say today, so I will keep it short, just for a change. So thank you so much for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed the video. I hope that you'll like to, I can't think what the right word is, but revisit Purple Posy, because I think so many of us have forgotten all about it. So it's a really pretty colour. If you've enjoyed the video, then I would really appreciate a thumbs up. That would be great. If you'd like to subscribe to my channel, that would be much appreciated as well. I will be back with another project. I'm not quite sure what, but I will be back. As usual, all my normal links will be on the front of the video, for my shop, my blog, and all the details of the products I've used. Everything I've used apart from the snail adhesive is a current product, so if there is something that's taken your caught your eye and you'd like to purchase it, then you can do so. As I say, is a current product. So that's it for now. You can keep up to date with me via my blog, and as I say, there's quite a bit of Stampin' Up news happening at the moment, with a new catalogue about to be launched at the beginning of January, our celebration promotion, details of a new mini cut and emboss machine. So there's an awful lot going on. By subscribing to my blog, you'll be able to keep up to date with all of that. Anyway, that's it for now. Thank you so much for joining me. I will see you again very soon, but until then, look after yourselves, take care. Bye for now.